Late-night television serves as a platform for the stars to promote their work and causes to a national audience. Of course, if a celebrity says something that the network doesn't like on one of these pre-recorded shows, they can simply just edit it out. On SNL, it's very different. Everything happens in the moment, and there's nothing to prevent unplanned publicity stunts, no matter how outrageous they may be. I'm James Fallon, and on this episode of SNL Rewind, I'll be looking back on the controversial Sinead O'Connor incident of 1992. Saturday Night Live has been a staple of the late-night comedy lineup since 1975, and there's been tons of comedy stars that have come out of it throughout its run. But due to the fact that the show is live, there's been several incidents in the past of broadcasts that have caused significant controversy. And in this episode, I'm going to be looking back on one of those controversies involving singer Sinead O'Connor and a photo of the Pope, oddly enough. A lot of the incidents, or so they're called, incidents on SNL, are usually just results of a host or an actor on the show slipping up and saying a swear. Just a few weeks ago, actor Sam Rockwell, when he was hosting, slipped in an F-bomb in one of the first sketches of the night, and that was just another example of just a slip-up where an actor says a bad word on TV. There's nothing they can do. It's in the heat of the moment, and it's a live show.
Isn't it true or false, Josh?
True.
You can't be this stupid. I'm sorry. No, kids aren't stupid. I just say what you see, okay?
There have been a few exceptions to this rule in the past, one of them being the band Fear, who performed in 1981. They came on the stage with crazy amounts of dancers, and they trashed the stage and were basically never allowed on SNL again. Another one of these calculated incidents was in 1996, which is after the incident we're going to talk about today, but the band Rage Against the Machine was scheduled to perform, and during one of their songs, they decided to put up American flags upside down in protest of that night's host, who was Steve Forbes, the well-known billionaire and at that time a presidential candidate in '96. The thing that makes Sinead O'Connor's incident in 1992 so different from really anything that came before it, for sure, and anything mostly that would come after it, is the fact that she planned this out. She planned to do this, to perform this act before the show, and didn't tell anyone from NBC, any of the band, anyone who was involved in Saturday Night Live that week. And even in the dress rehearsal, she did not reveal what she was going to do. So that is what made it all the more shocking. So the October 3rd episode in 1992 was the second episode of SNL's 18th season. Tim Robbins was hosting. He is a famous actor. He was promoting his movie called Bob Roberts at the time. Sinead O'Connor was an up-and-coming singer. She had her, what turned out to be her biggest hit, cover of Prince's song Nothing Compares to You in 1990, and was promoting her new album in '92. And so that set the stage for the night's activities.
It's Saturday Night Live! With Dana Carvey, Nora Dunn, Bill Hartman, Jan Hood.
Now, before this incident, Sinead O'Connor was no stranger to controversy. In 1990, she actually said that she would not perform if the national anthem of the United States was played before her concert. That stirred up some controversy back then. she'd always been known to be a protester, someone who stood up for human rights and protested against poverty and child abuse all over the world. So she did have a reputation coming into this episode. The way the musical performances at SNL work and the overall performances in general of all the comedic sketches is that there is a dress rehearsal before the live performance. And in this dress rehearsal, Sinead O'Connor performed a cover of Bob Marley's song War, which was a protest song in itself. And during the song, in the dress rehearsal, she held up a picture of a Balkan child, a child from the Balkan nations, and she held that up as a protest of child abuse in those countries. And it was a very nice moment, a very touching moment, and in comparison at least to what would come later, it was much more peaceful.
And abundant, everywhere is war. Miss a war.
So Sinead O'Connor gets up there to perform her song as the first performance of the night, Bob Marley's song War, and she gets up there and it's all going according to plan until she gets to a certain lyric. And that lyric is "Fight Racial Injustice," which is the original lyric that Bob Marley sings as the song is protesting racial injustice. But O'Connor changes it to "Fight Child Abuse." And then as she sings the next lyric in the next line, which is the word evil, she holds up a picture of Pope John Paul II and rips it up into tiny pieces.
Of good over evil. Fight the real enemy.
Fight the real enemy. It's a bold statement. And as the pieces fall to the floor, you can kind of hear a quiet go over the audience. And it was said later that Lorne Michaels scrambled to make sure they didn't put on the applause sign, which I guess makes sense in a situation like that. But I think the audience was already awestruck. No one was expecting anything like this. The song War is relatively slow. I mean, it is a protest song, but no one was expecting this woman to hold up a picture of the leader of the Catholic Church and tear it to shreds on national television. And to do this was an insane statement, and a statement that had not been made at the time on Saturday Night Live up to that point. It was an example of SNL being used as a platform for protest, which is something that Lorne Michaels may have never imagined.
Could I write? I don't have the right. What else should I be? All apologies.
After this incident, the rest of the show pretty much went the way it was planned. At the end of the show, Tim Robbins, the host, came out to say the final goodbyes, and usually, as per tradition, the host thanks the musical guest and any other guests that have been on the show that night, and Robbins did not thank O'Connor. He was raised Catholic, and it makes sense that he wouldn't thank her. I'm guessing he did not appreciate the ripping up of the picture. As did other NBC callers. NBC received hundreds of calls from angry viewers about the incident. Their phone lines were clogged for the rest of the night, the rest of the day after, into the next week. People were outraged, to say the least. There were protests that occurred where people burned Sinead O'Connor's CDs in the following weeks, and for a good while she was basically blacklisted from pop culture. And next week's host, Joe Pesci, when he hosted, he criticized Sinead O'Connor in his monologue, actually threatening to hit her. In future broadcasts of this same episode, the dress rehearsal performance where she simply holds up the picture of the child is the performance that they use. They have completely edited the incident out of any other broadcasts, although it was seen recently in 2016 when O'Connor went on the Rachel Maddow show to talk about the incident, but it is definitely a sensitive topic in the SNL circle. In the future, it's definitely affected the show as far as keeping a watchful eye over any political statements that are going to be made. Lorne Michaels and the rest of his staff are very watchful of any incidents like this that are going to happen. The show is still live, though, and that's the thing to remember, that anything can happen, and once something is out, be it a swear or a political statement of that magnitude, and there's really nothing you can do about it except try to do damage control after and edit it out of future broadcasts. But in the end, O'Connor's incident really changed SNL in a sense that nothing of that magnitude had been done up to that point, and it truly shocked everyone watching, because even with her hit song, O'Connor was not a huge name at that point, and this incident really put her on the map in the sense of infamy, made her infamous in pop culture in Hollywood, and she had a steady career as a singer after this, but had many more controversies regarding all kinds of crazy things. But she definitely is a person who has strong opinions, and she certainly did back then. Sinead O'Connor, of course, was never allowed back on Saturday Night Live. Since then, there have really been no other incidents of the same format, a political statement made, except for that of Rage Against the Machine, like I said, in 1996. Other than that, the incidents on SNL have been relatively tame, swear words, things like that. But this insane political statement that O'Connor made set the bar high for anyone else coming on the show. She created a controversy that will go down in SNL history as one of the oddest and craziest things ever. As a fan of SNL, I feel like it's good to review these incidents and see how they affect the show and how they affect pop culture and society's view of Saturday Night Live as a show and as a comedic institution, but also as a place where people can use it as a platform. It's viewed by millions, it's beloved by millions, and it's always interesting to look back at these incidents and see what can happen on a live show, what can occur when the cameras are rolling and there's no one out there to stop you. A lot can happen, and a lot can be said that can't be taken back. And Sinead O'Connor, the way she is, I don't think she regrets what she said, but it definitely caused a lot of controversy and effectively put her career on standby. But it was a learning experience for all, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. In the future, maybe we'll go over some other SNL incidents, although I think this one takes the cake. But definitely check us out, SNL Rewind. I will be back in the future, and I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope to produce more like it. Have a wonderful day.